Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Biblio Files right here on AADL TV. My name is Amanda, and with me is Christopher and Lucy. And each week we spend about 5 minutes or so chatting about one book topic. And this week's question task is an easy one. What's the last book you read? Tell us about it. So that's what we're discussing this week. And I think we'll go with Christopher. What did you read last? Tell us about it.
Well, I was lucky. The last book that I finished was fantastic. It's Educated by Tara Westover. And I had checked this book out from the library quite a long time ago, right after I heard Tara speak on, I think it was Fresh Air. I knew it was going to be a hit at the library. So I put it on reserve and I got it, and I didn't get a chance to get to it. A friend happened to loan me this just a couple weeks ago, and I tore through it. It tells the story of a young girl who grows up in a fundamentalist Mormon household. And this is a true story, I should say. And it's about her kind of dealing with and escaping her family and eventually ending up at Cambridge University for a PhD. It's a fast read. My jaw was constantly dropping from the very beginning of the book with all of the family trauma that takes place. And it was inspiring as well. I really liked her journey and her perseverance to escape her family and realize that you can kind of accept your family on one hand, but that doesn't mean you have to give in to them. So it was a great book, and I was lucky that I'm such a slow reader on my current book because I'd much rather talk about this one. Lucy?
So I just finished a book yesterday called Memorial by Brian Washington. It's a novel. It's brand new. It just came out at the end of October. And it's his debut novel. He had a really successful collection of short stories a couple years ago called Lot that I know was on like Obama's top book list. So this was an excellent book. I love this book, and it's sort of hard to say why or to describe it. It's about these two characters, Ben and Mike. They're a couple, and they've been living together for about 4 years, and they're sort of going through they're at a stasis, I would say. And Mike is from Japan, and his father is sick, so he's going to go back to Japan to see his father, but his mother comes over from Japan. So his mother ends up staying in his house with his boyfriend while Mike leaves. And so it's a love story on some levels, but a very unconventional love story. It's sort of like sometimes love is fading or being rebuilt, but that's still a love story, you know? And then it's also about these family relationships, like sons and their fathers, but also this mother who's visiting has a great relationship. So it's very layered. It switches back and forth from point of view of the two male characters, and the author does a great job with sort of different voices for them. But it was just this book that I felt like very immersed in it. And it was big themes, but small moments. I don't know if that makes sense. Like this very nuanced descriptions of very real feelings. And so it was beautifully written. And I think that it will be a book that you will see on a lot of lists coming out, like best books of 2020. So that's Memorial by Brian Washington. And if you get a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. So Amanda, what was the last book you finished?
So the last book I finished was an 1898 horror novella, a small book called Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Now, I don't generally read a lot of horror books or novels, but I wanted to read this. It was short, only 140 or so pages. And I decided it would be a good idea to read the novella before the Netflix series, The Haunting of Bly Manor, came out. I thought that'd be a great idea. So quick read. No, it took me forever. I really was not into the book. I don't think I liked the style of the writing. The writing was very hard to get into and digest. I wanted to be frightened of what was going on in the book, but it was hard to, because I was so into figuring out, like, it wasn't hard to understand the language, but the flow of it and understanding the narrator and her point of view was a little bit wonky for me. So basically, there are two small children, Flora and Miles, whose parents are dead, and they become the ward of their uncle, who wants nothing to do with them. So the two children are sent to live in Bly Manor and under the care of a brand new governess who watches over them, and then along with the housekeeper. And they're in this giant old mansion, and the children start behaving strangely. There are weird things happening in the house, and it's narrated by the governess telling you the story of what happened in the house. And I don't want to give away any endings. I don't even know what to say. I couldn't get into the book. It took me a very long time to finish it. I really wanted to read something else before this episode came on because I didn't want to talk about it. Maybe in a different frame of mind, I would have been more into reading the book, but I just wasn't ready. I just didn't feel like reading Turn of the Screw. It really wasn't necessary either for me to read it before I watched The Haunting of Bly Manor. I should have just left it alone and let all of the stuff be new watching the show. I feel like if people wanted to read Turn of the Screw at this point in time, they would have already done it. So I don't know why I really decided it would be a great project for me to do, but I did, and I want my 137 pages back. So there you go, Turn of the Screw. Christopher, you already talked. Lucy already talked. Any other final thoughts, anybody? No? All right. Well, friends, you're in for a treat because we are taking a small break, and then when we come back to Biblio Files, we are going to do an episode that we are very excited about. We are going to do a bit of a year-end recap, extended edition, longer episode, where we go back and talk about some of the books that we talked about, some of the things we read, some of the things we didn't read, get down in the dirt with that. So it'll be a longer episode. It'll be fun. I hope you'll join us then. That'll be coming up at the end of December. And if you want to comment on this episode, drop us a line. Let us know, what was the last book you read? How many stars do you give it? Let us know. You can drop a comment. The link below takes you to the library's website. We'd love to hear from you. Please get involved in our conversation. We just want to talk about books with you guys. All right, everybody, that's it for us. We'll see you next time.